A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1 live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you the news, I'm Juad Abdin.
And I'm Shalini Ratnavera. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Pakistan intensifies diplomatic push to resolve Middle East crisis. US says Israel and Lebanon move towards direct talks after 34 years. Lebanon's president declines to speak with Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu. IMF warns global economy could face worst-case impact of war. Former MP Chandana Katriarachi arrested with weapons at residence. Where is the strong opposition needed to challenge a powerful government? Concerns raised by activists.
මේ විපක්ෂය මෙතනින් එහාට අරන් යන්න පුළුවන් හොඳ නායකයෝ ටිකක් බිහි කරන්න මේ කියන නායකයන්ගේ ඇස් ඇරේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා.
Did power struggles in cricket administration cost the sport its growth?
And on to those stories in detail now. In your top story this evening, Pakistan is maintaining communication channels between the United States and Iran as part of its efforts to facilitate dialogue. No dates have been finalized for the next round of talks between the two sides, and consultations are ongoing for a mutually agreed schedule. Latest on the Middle East conflict. The US and Iran have been in indirect talks aimed at extending the two-week ceasefire beyond its 22nd April expiry as Pakistan's army chief arrived in Tehran to continue mediation efforts. Officials in Islamabad said Field Marshal Asim Munir led a Pakistani delegation to Tehran on Wednesday to convey a message from Washington while working to arrange a second round of US-Iranian ceasefire negotiations. The high-powered delegation also included the Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi. On the same day, Shehbaz Sharif, Pakistan's Prime Minister, set off on a 4-day tour to Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Turkey in an attempt to bolster peace efforts by coordinating support from other regional powers. According to the Foreign Office, the Prime Minister, accompanied by a high-level delegation, is undertaking official visits to Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Turkey from the 15th to the 18th April. The meeting with the Qatari Emir took place shortly after his arrival in Doha, where he landed after concluding his trip to Saudi Arabia. Upon arrival, the Pakistani delegation was welcomed by a contingent of the Qatari armed forces, the PMO said, adding that the airport and the city had been decorated with Pakistani flags. The PMO said Prime Minister Shehbaz and the Qatari Emir were to exchange views on Pakistan's efforts towards regional and global peace. Meanwhile, spokesperson for the Pakistan Ministry of Foreign Affairs clarified Pakistan's approach to the conflict in the Middle East.
Pakistan has been recognized for its constructive diplomatic engagement in supporting de-escalation, ceasefire efforts, and a broader pursuit of stability between the United States and Iran. Throughout sustained interaction with both Washington and Tehran, Islamabad has sought to encourage dialogue, facilitate the exchange of messages, and helping create condition and space for conducive and meaningful negotiations. The approach that Pakistan has undertaken underscores consistent commitment to regional stability and international peace, reflecting our preferences for principled, dialogue-oriented diplomacy for addressing complex geopolitical challenges and managing complicated disputes and conflicts. In this context, under the leadership of Prime Minister Mohammad Shahbaz Sharif and with active engagement of Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Senator Mohammad Ishaq Dar and Chief of Defence Staff and Chief of the Defence Forces and Chief of Army Staff Field Marshal Sayyid Asim Munir, Pakistan has maintained open channels of communication with the concerned parties as part of our facilitative and mediatory role. As part of these ongoing efforts, the Prime Minister is currently undertaking visits to key regional countries, while the Chief of Defence Forces and the Chief of Army Staff arrived in Tehran yesterday. Collectively, these initiatives, these pursuits reflect our sustained efforts for peace and our commitment that these efforts are best advanced through dialogue and cooperation. And this has been a fact which has been acknowledged in diplomatic circles around the world.
Will the second round of US-Iran peace talks take place?
What's the status of extending the Iran ceasefire, Caroline?
Yes, so I saw some reporting, again, bad reporting this morning, that we had formally requested an extension of the ceasefire. That is not true at this moment. We've remained very much engaged in these negotiations, in these talks. You heard from the Vice President directly and the President this week that these conversations are productive and ongoing, and that's where we are right now. I've also seen some reporting about the potentiality for in-person discussions again. Those discussions are being had, but nothing is official until you hear it from us here at the White House. But we feel good about the prospects of a deal. The President mentioned that in his interview yesterday, and it's obviously in the best interest of Iran to meet the President's demands. I think he's made his red lines in these negotiations very clear to the other side, and so we are continuing to see how these conversations go.
Would those talks be in Islamabad, or where would they be the next round?
They would very likely be in the same place as they were last time, yes. With the same, I would just want to make one point that's important to the President. The Pakistanis have been incredible mediators throughout this process, and we really appreciate their friendship and their efforts to bring this deal to a close. So they are the only mediator in this negotiation. While there have been many countries around the world who want to offer their help, the President feels it's important to continue to streamline this communication through the Pakistanis, and so that's what continues to take place.
What is happening in the Strait of Hormuz? A second US-sanctioned supertanker has entered the Gulf via the Strait of Hormuz, shipping data showed, despite a US blockade on vessels visiting Iranian ports. US President Donald Trump announced the blockade on Sunday after weekend peace talks in Islamabad between the US and Iran failed to reach a deal. The US Central Command said on X that 14 vessels have been turned around and no ships have broken through since the start of the blockade on Monday. Still, Iran's fast news agency said on Wednesday that an Iranian supertanker subject to US sanctions crossed the strait towards Iran's Imam Khomeini port despite the blockade. Fast did not identify the tanker or give further details of its voyage. Iran's Qatar Malanbia central headquarters threatened on Wednesday to block exports and imports through the Gulf, the Sea of Oman and the Red Sea in response to the US naval blockade on Iranian ports. A statement carried by fast news agencies said, if the aggressive and terrorist US continues illegal maritime blockade actions and creates insecurity for Iranian commercial vessels and oil tankers, such moves would be seen as a prelude to violating the ceasefire. China's reaction to the Hormuz blockade. According to foreign media, China has expressed firm support for maintaining the momentum of a ceasefire and continuing peace talks, stressing that such efforts serve the fundamental interests of the Iranian people and reflect the shared expectations of countries in the region and the wider international community. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made the remarks on Wednesday during a phone conversation with Iranian Foreign Minister Said Abbas Araghchi. Wang said China supports efforts to sustain the ceasefire and promote dialogue, describing the current moment as critical for advancing peace. He said the situation has reached a critical stage between war and peace, adding that a window for peace has now opened. He called for respect for and protection of Iran's sovereignty and legitimate rights as a country situated along the Strait of Hormuz, while also emphasizing the importance of ensuring the freedom and safety of international navigation through the strategic waterway. Developments in the US amidst Middle East tensions. The Senate on Wednesday defeated another powers resolution aimed at curbing President Trump's ability to use further military force against Iran, with Democrats vowing to keep trying to rein in the president. A motion to discharge the measure from the committee failed in a 47-52 vote. It was the fourth time Democrats in the Senate had forced a vote on the issue since the war began on the 28th February.
US President Donald Trump has announced that the leaders of Israel and Lebanon will speak to each other for the first time in 34 years today. However, a Lebanese official told CNN that Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has declined to speak to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
A trilateral multiple meeting between US, Israeli and Lebanese officials took place on Tuesday, the first major high-level engagement between Israel and Lebanon since 1993. The three sides agreed to hold productive discussions on steps toward launching direct negotiations between Israel and Lebanon. During the meeting, the US called for talks to go beyond a 2024 agreement and work toward a comprehensive peace deal, adding that any agreement to cease hostilities must be reached between the two governments brokered by the US and not through separate channels. In a Truth Social post published just before midnight, US President Trump said he was trying to get a little breathing room between Israel and Lebanon. He added, "It has been a long time since the two leaders have spoken, like 34 years. Trump did not specify who would attend or where the talks would take place. Meanwhile, a member of Israel's security cabinet told Israel's Army radio today that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be speaking with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun. However, according to BBC, Lebanese officials have told news agencies they had no information about any upcoming contact or talks with Israel's leadership. Meanwhile, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf says the completion and consolidation of a comprehensive ceasefire in Lebanon will be the result of the steadfastness and struggle of the esteemed Hezbollah and its heroic deeds and the unity of the axis of resistance. Posting on X, Ghalibaf highlighted that the United States must commit to this agreement, adding that the resistance and Iran are one and the same entity, whether in war or in a ceasefire. He further stated that America must back down from the mistake of Israel first. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the US keeps Israel updated and the two countries are aligned on their goals to see enriched nuclear material removed from Iran, the cancellation of enrichment capabilities within Iran, and the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. He said, quote, "It is too early to say how this matter will end or even how it will progress. Should fighting resume, we are prepared for any scenario." Unquote. However, strikes between Israel Defense Forces and Hezbollah in Lebanon continue amidst the possibility of talks between the two leaders. The United States has issued one of its strongest warnings yet to Iran over rising tensions in the Strait of Hormuz, declaring that Washington will maintain a naval blockade and intensify economic pressure unless Tehran opts for negotiations and restraint.
You like to say publicly, Iran, that you control the Strait of Hormuz, but you don't have a navy or real domain awareness. You can't control anything. To be clear, threatening to shoot missiles and drones at ships, commercial ships that are lawfully transiting international waters, that is not control. That's piracy. That's terrorism. The United States Navy controls the traffic going in and out of the strait because we have real assets and real capabilities. And we're doing this blockade, performing it with less than 10% of America's naval power. The math is clear. We're using 10% of the world's most powerful navy, and you have 0% of your navy. That's real control, and we have a long track record of dealing with pirates and terrorists. But there is an alternative. As our negotiators have said, you, Iran, can choose a prosperous future, a golden bridge, and we hope that you do for the people of Iran. In the meantime, and for as long as it takes, we will maintain this blockade, successful blockade. But if Iran chooses poorly, then they will have a blockade and bombs dropping on infrastructure, power, and energy. And at the same time, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and our friends over at Treasury are launching Operation Economic Fury as well, maximizing economic pressure across the entirety of the government. To Iran, choose wisely. The world watched, and so did you, as the U.S. military moved seamlessly from major combat operations to a world-class blockade. We can make that transition again, very quickly, and even more powerfully than ever. At the direction of President Trump, the War Department will ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. Never. We'd prefer to do it the nice way, through a deal led by our great Vice President and negotiating team, or we can do it the hard way. We urge this new regime to choose wisely.
International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva has warned that tough times may lie ahead for the global economy if the conflict in the Middle East persists and keeps oil prices high, highlighting growing risks to growth, public finances and vulnerable economies.
Like all of you, we have been watching closely the events in the Middle East, a war that causes significant pain on people and the economies in the region and around the world. My hopes, my prayers are for the current ceasefire to lead to a durable peace. The impact on the global economy is already large. Even if the conflict is short-lived, extensive infrastructure damage and supply chain disruptions are pushing prices up and slowing global growth down from 3.4% last year to 3.1% in 2026. But if the conflict persists and oil prices stay high for an extended period, we must brace for tough times ahead. Our World Economic Outlook outlines a range of scenarios. In the most adverse case, growth could fall to 2%. And the shock is global. All countries are affected by higher energy prices. But the negative impact is highly asymmetric, with the biggest burdens falling on countries that import energy and have limited policy space. In many cases, these are low-income or fragile economies. They need attention, and an important focus of our discussion this week is on how we can best support them.
The International Monetary Fund has expressed growing concern over physical supply chain disruptions stemming from developments in the Strait of Hormuz, warning that shortages of critical resources are already emerging and are likely to deepen in the weeks ahead.
Yes, we are concerned about the physical breakdown in supply chains. We are already seeing, especially in Asia, that is highly dependent on imports from the Gulf, that there are shortages in place not only of oil and gas, but also of naphtha, of helium, and that is creating already some disruptions, and that we need to recognize is not going to evaporate overnight, even if the war ends tomorrow. Why? Because a tanker is a slow-moving vessel. It would take 40 days to get all the way to Fiji. So we need to be prepared that the impact of the supply disruptions in the weeks ahead is going to deepen. So what do we tell countries? Use measures that can economize energy. And I have seen some countries doing exactly that, putting in place incentives like make public transport free, incentivize people to take it, or work from home. We did it during COVID. I don't see a reason why not do more of it now. Or switch to a less energy-intensive activities over time. So that is where we are. I'll give you just one example. Jet fuel. Something that I learned yesterday is that Korea is a big producer of jet fuel. They are an oil importer, but a jet fuel exporter. And fortunately for the world, they are one of the countries in Asia that has strong reserves of oil and gas, and that allows the economy to function well. but they need new supplies, and as I said, the tankers are slow to move. In fact, what we have is a 20th century type of shock, slower moving shock, in the 21st century.
Sri Lanka is in a stronger position than it was at the height of its economic crisis to support citizens affected by rising energy costs, but must continue its reform path to secure long-term stability. These comments were made by Krishna Srinivasan, the director of IMF's Asia and Pacific Department.
Although Sri Lanka's sovereign debt restructuring is nearing completion, the country remains one of the most highly indebted economies in the region. Now, earlier, the IMF also warned that any fiscal slippages could trigger a repeat in the crisis, despite good bond spreads and accumulating reserves. Given what is happening in the Middle East, what is the position of the IMF when it comes to Sri Lanka's recovery in terms of protecting the poor and vulnerable and adding further support? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Like many other countries in Asia, Sri Lanka also relies a lot on import of energy when it was oil and gas. So they are as vulnerable as other countries in the region. The point I was making in response to the previous question was that over the last 3 years, they have slowly built up buffers on the fiscal side. Their revenue as a share of GDP has doubled from the bottom of the crisis to where we are today. So they are in a better position than they were before to provide targeted fiscal support. At the same time, it's important that they continue on the reforms which they've embarked upon so that they can secure inclusive and balanced and strong growth going forward.
Amid the escalating conflict in the Middle East and the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, economic analysts warn of early signs of a potential global food crisis driven by severe disruptions to the global supply chains. According to analysts, the ongoing disruption of international logistics routes has reached a critical point, making an upcoming fertilizer crisis increasingly unavoidable. Experts further caution that this could directly impact agricultural yields in the coming seasons. Analysts add that whether this situation develops into a large-scale global food crisis will depend heavily on the investments and policy decisions made by countries at the current stage. In this context, the government of the United Kingdom says that the country could face some food shortages by the summer if the Iran war continues in a worst-case scenario drawn up by the government officials. According to BBC, government ministers are drawing up contingency plans for a reasonable worst-case scenario if the key shipping lane of the Strait of Hormuz does not reopen, disrupting supplies required by the food industry. Meanwhile, experts caution that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is already triggering a severe global aviation fuel shortage. They note that this key maritime route typically accounts for around 20% of global oil supply, and its disruption is having significant impacts, particularly on Asian and European countries. The International Energy Agency has forecast a risk of widespread flight cancellations by May due to tightening fuel supplies. The European Commission has also warned that countries may face even greater challenges related to fuel supply disruptions in the near future.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has categorically rejected reports claiming that Sri Lanka paid $286 per barrel for crude oil, describing the information as false, misleading and damaging to the institution's reputation.
Issuing a formal clarification, the CPC said that crude oil imports to Sri Lanka are carried out solely by the corporation for refining at the Sapagaskanda refinery, and that no crude oil consignment imported or contracted by the CPC has been purchased or agreed to be purchased at a price anywhere near $286 per barrel. The statement noted that following the escalation of tensions in the Middle East, the first crude oil shipment to Sri Lanka is scheduled to arrive on the 17th of April. It stressed that none of the crude oil cargoes imported or contracted after the outbreak of hostilities carry such an excessive price tag. According to the CPC, the agreed prices for crude oil shipments arriving after the Middle East conflict stand at approximately $71.99, $111.62, $71.81, and $113.29 per barrel. The corporation said these rates are highly competitive and advantageous when compared with prevailing global market prices. The CPC said that it has successfully secured crude oil supplies under favorable and competitive conditions relative to other market participants, ensuring continuity of refining operations while safeguarding national energy interests. The clarification was issued under the hand of the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. Earlier, the Financial Times quoted HSBC Chief Executive Georges El-Hedri as saying that the highest door-to-door price he had seen for a barrel of oil delivered to the island had reached $286, a figure that includes sharply higher costs for shipping, insurance and logistical risk.
Another crude oil shipment from the Middle East is scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka tomorrow. Managing Director of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Myroneti Kumarage, said that the vessel will bring in 9,750 metric tons of crude oil.
Managing Director of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Myroneti Kumarage, has confirmed that a vessel carrying fuel is set to arrive in Sri Lanka for the first time since March. Another fuel shipment is expected to reach the island by the end of this month. Meanwhile, a crude oil tanker from the United States is scheduled to arrive in the latter part of next month. The ship is expected to take approximately 45 days to reach Sri Lanka. In a related development, gas companies have announced that distribution, which was temporarily suspended due to the New Year holidays, will resume from today. Love's Gas stated that 5,000 metric tons of LP gas will be distributed starting today via the Hambantota and Mavima terminals. Litrogas also confirmed that distribution operations resumed today, adding that sufficient gas stocks are available until May.
Move forward, Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka has been named among countries that are closing out complex debt restructurings. This is according to the 6th COSHA's progress report released by the Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable.
Sri Lanka's debt restructuring process is nearing completion with significant progress recorded across negotiations and implementation according to the latest 6th COSHA's progress report released by the Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable on the 15th April. The report states that most sovereign debt restructuring cases launched during 2021 and 2022 have now been largely completed, including Sri Lanka's, which was carried out outside the G20 Common Framework. Sri Lanka's restructuring now involves only a small number of residual commercial creditors, while the signing of bilateral agreements with official creditors is well advanced, though not yet fully finalized. According to the GSDR, Sri Lanka successfully completed the 4th review of its IMF supported program in July 2025. In December 2025, following a severe cyclone, the country also received emergency financing under the IMF's rapid financing instrument. In parallel, the World Bank provided up to $120 million in emergency support by repurposing funds from ongoing projects to assist recovery efforts and restore essential services and infrastructure. The report notes that Sri Lankan authorities continue to engage in good faith negotiations with the remaining commercial creditors. Residual debt yet to be restructured is estimated at about 1.7% of Sri Lanka's total external debt within the restructuring perimeter as of end 2023, indicating that the bulk of the process has already been completed. Sri Lanka is highlighted alongside countries such as Ghana, Zambia, Ethiopia and Suriname as cases where restructuring efforts have reached an advanced stage. While acknowledging that debt vulnerabilities remain elevated globally, particularly in low-income countries amid continued economic uncertainty, the GSDR underscores Sri Lanka's progress as an important step toward restoring debt sustainability. The report also emphasizes the importance of completing remaining bilateral agreements, strengthening debt transparency, and maintaining sound investor relations to support post-restructuring recovery. For Sri Lanka, the near completion of the restructuring process marks a key milestone in stabilizing public finances and rebuilding international confidence following years of economic distress. Now in breaking news, US President Donald Trump says the leaders of Israel and Lebanon agreed to a 10-day ceasefire after officials from the two countries met in Washington. According to a post by US President Donald Trump on Truth Social, the temporary truce will start at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The US president wrote that he had just completed excellent conversations with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Joseph Aoun of Lebanon. Trump wrote that the two leaders from Israel and Lebanon struck the ceasefire agreement in order to achieve peace between their countries. That news item once again, US President Donald Trump says the leaders of Israel and Lebanon agreed to a 10-day ceasefire after officials from the two countries met in Washington.
Taking a look at your local news, the Democratic National Alliance stressed that a strong government must be matched by a strong opposition to ensure accountability. However, they noted that the public has yet to place its trust in the country's opposition parties.
Who is most suitable to lead opposition politics?
The intelligent people of this country know that for 76 years, two main parties took turns to rule this country. The United National Party is one of these parties. What has happened to the UNP today? It has completely collapsed, with only a few buildings like Sidikota remaining. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party that should be at Dali Road is at Halfstop Court today. They have to wait for determinations from the Supreme Court on who the leaders are, who the chairman is, and who the General Secretary is. These positions are changing daily. Can such a party function as a strong opposition? Two alternative parties emerged. One is the Samagi Janabalavega led by Sajid Premadasa. Is he a real leader? How many times was he called to take up the position of Prime Minister? Did he accept? No, he did not. Even during the recent political crisis, when a president was elected in parliament, did he contest? No, he did not. He lacks the strength to accept responsibility. He is the modern-day Andare. Following the split in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, another party emerged, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. Who is it led by today? Nama Rajapaksa and the Rajapaksa group. We saw them bankrupt the country. The president ran away in secret. The people of this country chased them away. Are we giving the role of the opposition in this country again to them? They are struggling today to deal with the legal issues they are facing and to regain the privileges and comfort they once had. In the past, we saw strong opposition movements with leaders who were able to stand up even against powerful governments. But today, the situation looks much more serious. I hope these leaders open up their eyes, rethink their direction, and help build stronger leadership that can take the opposition forward during this Sinhala and Tamil New Year.
Who is most suitable to lead opposition politics?
Former Member of Parliament Chandra Khatriarachi was arrested by the Colombo Crimes Division. Police spokesperson SPFU Woodler said that Khatriarachi's residence in Piliandala was searched based on a tip-off received. He said that two T-56 magazines, 221 T-56 rounds of ammunition and another stock of ammunition were recovered during the search.
Following a report submitted to the Casper Magistrates Court by the Colombo Crimes Division based on allegations that former Member of Parliament Chandana Khatriarachi was in possession of firearms, his residence was searched today under a search warrant. Accordingly, a stock of ammunition including 221 T-56 ammunition, 2 T-56 magazines, a hand grenade and a stock of other rounds of ammunition have been recovered. Former Member of Parliament Chandana Khatriarachi was arrested thereafter by the Colombo Crimes Division. A 12-bore firearm which had reportedly been issued to the MP for protection of an agricultural land has also been taken into police custody. The Colombo Crimes Division is continuing investigations into the incident and the suspect is scheduled to be produced before the Casper Magistrates Court. Chandana Khatriarachi was last elected to Parliament representing the Sri Lanka Podujana Eksat Peramuna. At the most recent general election, he contested from the Colombo district representing the New Democratic Front.
Newsfirst with the people.
Special public transport services continued as usual today to facilitate the return of people who travel to their hometowns to celebrate the Sinhala and Tamil New Year as Colombo gradually resumes normal activity. The National Transport Commission said plans are in place to operate additional bus services based on passenger demand until the 20th of April, with special emphasis on routes serving Badulla, Bandarawala, Nuwara, Kandy and the southern province. We have deployed more than 13,500 buses for special New Year services. All necessary arrangements have been made to ensure that those who travelled to their hometowns can return to Colombo smoothly. If there are any transport-related complaints or issues, the public can contact our 24-hour hotline 1955. These special New Year transport services will continue until the 20th of April. Meanwhile, the Department of Railways announced that office trains resumed normal operations from today. Its media spokesperson Asanka Samarasinghe has said that special train services are still being operated today as well to accommodate those returning from their hometowns. In parallel, a surge in holiday travel significantly boosted revenue on the country's expressway network. From the 10th of April up to yesterday, expressways generated over 220 million rupees in revenue, according to the Road Development Authority. Officials said total earnings during the 5-day period amounted to 229,242,040 rupees, while the number of vehicles that used expressways during that time stood at 610,325.
This is the festive season. While it is a time of celebration and joy, it is equally important to pay close attention to your safety. We bring this reminder to your attention as several fatalities have been reported in recent days due to road accidents and drowning incidents.
Sri Lanka police said that 41 deaths have been reported due to road accidents between 10th of April and yesterday. These deaths have resulted from 36 fatal accidents. Police further stated that a total of 160 fatal road accidents have been reported so far this month alone.
During the 13th, 14th and 15th of April, 19 people have died in road accidents. In comparison, during the same period in 2025, there were 25 road accidents resulting in 26 deaths. Drunk driving remains a major contributing factor to these accidents. Despite repeated warnings, some individuals continue to ignore the law. Strict legal action will be enforced for such reckless individuals. Under criminal and traffic laws, we strongly urge the public not to drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs. 3 people have drowned while bathing in the Dadaroya in Ambaliagama, Kobegane. Police said that several others are also missing. A group of around 10 people had gone to bathe in Dadaroya this evening. Police confirmed that 2 people who got swept away in the currents were rescued and hospitalized, while search operations are currently underway to locate the missing persons.
The Criminal Investigation Department says that the head office of the Lanka Coal Company remains sealed. The department added that permission has been granted only for essential day-to-day operations.
Operations at the head office of the Lanka Coal Company are currently being conducted under the full supervision of the Criminal Investigation Department. The head office located in Kohovala was sealed on the 11th of April. A complaint was previously filed with the CID by Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanat Kumar Naika, requesting an investigation into coal imports since 2009. The office was then sealed once investigations commenced. Security has now been deployed around the clock, with 4 police officers and 2 CID officials assigned to guard the premises.
The Sri Lanka-Indonesia Navy Friendship Parade and Marching Band display took place in Colombo this evening.
The Sri Lanka-Indonesia Navy Friendship Parade and Marching Band display, held as part of the goodwill visit of the Indonesian Navy training ship KRI Bimasuci, took place in Colombo at the Gulf Face Green today. This joint performance showcased precision, discipline, musical excellence and dynamic formations, reflecting the professionalism and strong spirit of both navies. The event highlighted strong friendship, mutual respect and equal partnership between Sri Lanka and Indonesia, as both navies proudly marched side by side in unity. The arrival of the KRI Bimasuci in Colombo earlier today marked an important milestone in Indonesia-Sri Lanka maritime relations. The vessel carried 79 cadets of the Indonesian Naval Academy, along with international delegates included Sri Lanka participating in the ASEAN Plus Cadet Sail 2026 program. The voyage commenced from Surabaya, Indonesia and concluded in Colombo.
To showcase Indonesia's heritage to the world, efforts continue to preserve and promote Reok Ponorogo.
The parade and marching band display at Gulfface Green served as a celebration of the close ties and cultural connection between Sri Lanka and Indonesia, while offering the public a unique opportunity to witness this remarkable collaboration.
These cadets showcase their incredible showmanship, discipline and precision through their performances, which brought together a unique cultural combination between our two nations. Reporting to you from Colombo, I'm Mahimya Melkon for the Newsfirst team.
Did the actions taken by corrupt cricket administrators to protect their own power truly serve the genuine progress of the sport? Let's take a look.
The Sinhala and Tamil New Year, a core element of our culture, was celebrated with great pride by Sri Lankans across the country. As a nation, we move forward with dignity, safeguarding our heritage, national assets and cultural legacy. Sri Lanka has been endowed with a remarkable collection of advantages, a unique geographical position, rich natural resources, ancient heritage and deep-rooted traditions. For a country like Sri Lanka, positioned in a highly strategic location and ranking high as a tourism destination, the development and protection of our own national brands is critically important. Music and cricket have long been among those brands, arenas where Sri Lankan youth, creativity and identity were consistently carried onto new stages. For many, cricket is not just a sport, it is a religion. Yet, in recent years, the decline of Sri Lanka's cricket has been so severe that the national team has been forced to play qualifying tournaments just to reach World Cups. For nearly a decade, Sri Lanka failed to reach a semi-final in any tournament organized by the International Cricket Council. Allegations of corruption and mismanagement against cricket administrators have been repeatedly raised, both in court hearings and on the floor of Parliament. On the 6th November 2023, then Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe appointed an interim committee of 7 members to Sri Lanka cricket. The committee included retired Supreme Court Justices S.I. Imam and Rohini Marasinghe, as well as retired High Court Judge Irangani Pereira. However, on the 7th November 2023, Sri Lanka cricket officials challenged the appointment in court and obtained a 2-week interim injunction. Against this backdrop, on the 9th November 2023, Parliament, as recorded in the Hansard, moved a resolution to remove the chairman and office bearers of Sri Lanka cricket over corruption allegations. Without a vote and with the consensus of both government and opposition members before the Speaker, the motion was adopted by Parliament. On that day, 38 members of Parliament, including former President Maithripala Sirisena and 3 former sports ministers, participated in the debate. Yet, on the very next day, the 10th November 2023, the International Cricket Council suspended Sri Lanka cricket. Amid this turmoil, on the 27th November 2023, then President Ranil Wickremesinghe removed Roshan Ranasinghe from the post of Sports Minister, appointing Harin Fernando as his successor. Subsequently, on the 28th January 2024, the ICC lifted its suspension on Sri Lanka cricket. During this power struggle, Sri Lanka even lost hosting rights for the Under-19 Cricket World Cup, which was scheduled to be held in the country. This sequence of events forces cricket-loving Sri Lankans to ask a troubling question. Are these cricket administrators more powerful than Parliament itself? The cost of this failure was laid bare during the 2023 ICC Men's Cricket World Cup, when Sri Lanka were bowled out for 55 runs in 19.4 overs against India, suffering a crushing 302-run defeat, the worst loss Sri Lanka has endured against India in one-day international history. Had administrators who clung to power acted responsibly when it mattered, Sri Lanka's cricket might not have suffered such a fate over the past decade. How is it that corrupt administrators, whom even Parliament, the supreme law-making body, could not remove, continue to be protected? By what unseen forces are they shielded? Albert Einstein once said, quote, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results," unquote. Is that not exactly what has unfolded within Sri Lanka's cricket administration? And that's a wrap up the news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.